Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating question. Why is it that in China, personal connections, what's known as guanxi, often seem to trump official rules? Now, the answer isn't something you'll find in today's news. Nope, it's actually buried deep in China's history. So let's go on a bit of an archaeological dig into the social DNA that, believe it or not, still shapes things today.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you've hit a bureaucratic brick wall? You've filled out all the forms, followed all the rules, and gotten nowhere? And then a single phone call to someone you know or someone your friend knows magically solves the entire problem. Well, that's not just a fluke. It's actually a window into a system that's been built over thousands of years. And we're about to see just how it all fits together.
To really get what's happening now, we have to rewind the clock, way back. We're going to see how the deep historical foundations of China created a world that just operates on a fundamentally different logic, a logic that isn't always based on impartial modern rules. Okay, so our investigation kicks off more than 2,000 years ago. This is the first and maybe the biggest piece of the puzzle. A really unique and incredibly powerful model of centralized government. Think about it this way. Over in Europe, for centuries, power was this constant tug of war, right? You had kings, powerful nobles, the church, and eventually independent cities and merchants all vying for influence. This messy, fragmented setup actually created space for groups like merchants to grow and become a power in their own right. But in China, it was a totally different story. The Qin system created this massive, unified pyramid. The emperor was at the very, very top, and all power flowed straight down from him. It was absolute. And the upshot of all this? No other group could ever really stand on its own 2 feet. Not scholars, not landowners, and definitely not merchants. Their entire existence was tied to serving the state, not competing with it. And this single design choice, made millennia ago, set the stage for everything that followed. So you might be wondering, if all the power is concentrated way up at the top with the emperor, how on earth do you actually control a country that massive day to day? Well, the answer is pretty clever. It's all about how the empire handled things at the most local level. Here's the thing. The empire was just too big for the emperor and his bureaucrats to manage every little detail. It was impossible. So to control life down at what you might call the capillary level, in the villages and neighborhoods, the state had to delegate. It leaned on local clans and powerful families to keep the peace and maintain order. So while the official laws came from the capital, your actual lived experience was governed by local relationships and customs. This is what gives rise to what social scientists call a society of acquaintances. I mean, it makes perfect sense. When you can't really count on abstract laws or impartial institutions to have your back, who do you rely on? You rely on people, on your people. Trust wasn't about a system. It was personal. It was all about who you knew. And here's a brilliant way to visualize this. Picture dropping a stone into a still pond. You are that stone. That very first, most powerful ripple right around you, that's your immediate family. The next ripple out is your relatives and close friends. A little further, you've got acquaintances, and then way out at the edge are strangers. The crucial thing to understand is that the rules of trust, of obligation, of what you owe someone, they're different for every single one of those ripples. This whole social model has a specific name, Tatsu Geiju. It basically translates to a pattern of differential treatment or a graded network of relationships. Think about that for a second. This isn't a system built on the idea of treating everyone equally under one universal moral code. Far from it. It's a world where you have different moral playbooks for different people. The intense loyalty and support you owe your own family is completely different from what you owe a stranger. Society isn't a collection of equal individuals. It's an intricate, overlapping web of personal networks. And this isn't just some abstract theory. It has huge, real-world consequences. It means the best resources, whether it's a job or a business opportunity, often flow through these networks. You end up trusting your personal connections far more than you trust formal institutions or laws. And this creates a fascinating paradox. When you're dealing with people in your inner circle, formal rules feel cold and unnecessary. But when you're dealing with strangers outside your network, those same formal rules often feel completely ineffective. All right, time for our third and final clue. let's look at how all of this, the politics and the social structure, ended up shaping a very particular cultural attitude about business, about risk, and about money itself. For most of its history, China was fundamentally an agricultural civilization. The highest value, the ultimate goal, was stability, security, the guaranteed harvest. It's a mindset that prioritizes order and predictability. And Confucian values really reinforce this, often viewing merchants and the pursuit of pure profit with suspicion. Now, contrast that with the maritime mindset of trading nations like the Netherlands or the UK. Their entire culture was built on the perilous voyage, taking on huge risks for the chance of even bigger rewards. Two totally different worldviews.
So if you're a merchant in that kind of environment, you're pretty vulnerable. You're never going to become a powerful, independent class that could challenge the state. So what do? The smart play wasn't to fight the system. It was to get inside it. You had to cozy up to government officials to protect your business and your wealth. You became, as the source material so vividly puts it, parasitic on official power.
Okay, so let's pull all three of these threads together. We've got the all-powerful centralized state, a society built on personal ripples of trust, and a deep cultural bias against commerce. Let's see what happens when this ancient code crashes into our modern world. When you combine these three historical legacies, what you get is something like a deep-seated social software. It's a cultural operating system, perfected over millennia, designed to run a world of imperial control, local clans, and personal trust. But here's the kicker. That ancient, time-tested software is now being forced to run on completely new, totally incompatible hardware. And that new hardware is the 21st century globalized world of market capitalism and the rule of law. And you know what happens when you try to run old, outdated software on a brand new computer, right? You get friction, you get bugs, you get system crashes. And this fundamental clash helps explain so much of what we see today. It helps explain why simply writing more and more laws sometimes just makes personal connections even more important. It might even explain why some successful entrepreneurs focus on cashing out rather than building lasting independent companies. This collision between an ancient social code and a modern economic reality is truly one of the most important stories shaping our world. Thanks for joining The Explainer.